life can hit like a sledgehammer. But guess what? We hit back harder. Welcome to Affirm That Sh. Somehow I thrive. I'm Jennifer Rogers, your no BS guide to turning life's toughest moments into badass victories. Ready to flip the script? Let's affirm that life can be a bitch, but somehow we thrive. Welcome to today's episode of Affirm That Sh. Today our special guest is my friend Roberta Campbell. And Roberta's story is one of getting her ass kicked, literally getting her ass kicked by life. She's come out, she's been bandaged, she's been bruised, she's been broken. But she took life and those experiences and stepped forward. She looked around, regained her balance. And when she did, she didn't take revenge. She didn't take pity. She took compassion. She changed herself, her viewpoint, and her direction. And now she gives back to others. She sees a need and she feels it. Today, she stands in her own power, and anything that gets in the way of it is quickly removed. There's no stopping her. Welcome to Affirm That Sh. We're going to say 3 affirmations together. I encourage you to say them along with us. If you can't do that right now because you're in a meeting, you're driving, anything's distracting you, save this episode, say the affirmations, and listen to them over and over again. And with that, we're going to begin. I invite you to take a deep breath in, hold, and let it out. I am resilient. I am resilient. I am resilient. Every challenge I face strengthens me. Every challenge I face strengthens me. Every challenge I face strengthens me. I stand in my power. I stand in my power. I stand in my power. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Roberta.
Imagine a space where you let go, where the clamor of the world quiets and you meet your truest self. At Yu-Gi-Oh!, through sound vibrations, Reiki, and the wisdom of tarot, we help you release what no longer serves you, align with your energy, and renew your spirit. Begin your journey back to yourself today.
Hey, Roberta.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I am doing good, sister. How are you doing today?
I am so good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining. I would like for you to introduce yourself and, girl, just start in that story wherever you would like. And just remember that this is all about affirming that shit. Those affirmations meant something for you and to you. So how did we get over everything that happened, and how are we thriving today?
Yeah, wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on here. I am so I'm so pumped. The words that you say, before we went on video here. Wow. You have got me so pumped up, and I can feel your energy. You are such a blessing to me, and I want to thank you so much.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
so, I look at my life, okay? Most of my life, it was pretty good. It really was. I had a pretty good life. The the road was just a little bumpy here and there until 2018. And well, I had just become an empty nester, and I was ready to live my best life. I sold the house that I had been living in that allowed my children to finish their high school years in a beautiful place, and I moved into this awesome apartment overlooking this river. I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is my new life. And as a hairstylist of many years, I began traveling around the United States, teaching hair extension classes. And I was having the time of my life. My kids were in college, and I was in this apartment for 3 weeks. And I was in California. I live in the Midwest, by the way. And 3 weeks I was in here, and I received a call that my daughter had been in a horrible accident. My daughter, 22 at the time, had been hit by a car while walking in a crosswalk as a pedestrian. And so let's just say this was a huge turning point of my life. I am very grateful that my daughter is still with us today. And not only has it changed my life, but it changed hers as well. And while she has suffered a lot of injuries, invisible injuries, um, she's doing okay. And I think all of us have these invisible injuries that we don't allow people to see. Um, Through my journey and her journey of trying to get her back on her feet, she moved back in with me. And that is when my life and her life began to change. See, she struggled for the first year or two with a traumatic brain injury and other injuries. And it was so difficult that I tried everything. I spent all my money on her recovery. And, it was like we needed a miracle.
Mhm.
We really did. And we were just living. I took a step back. I had been doing all these things and having fun, and I had to step back from everything and reevaluate my life. And because I had just been in an abusive relationship in 2017 and 2018. And so restarting my life, letting go of that and saying, I'm not doing that anymore. And instead, I have to emphasize this, instead of being the victim and saying that, what this person did to me, I took responsibility. And I decided that I needed to spend some time on myself and to heal. I didn't know how much healing I needed until I started this journey. I worked with a couple of mentors. I spent 2 years with mentors, Bob Proctor, uh, the infamous late Bob Proctor, and Kathleen Cameron. And those two people really changed my life. They sent me on a journey of where I can look at things now, and when something, okay, we could say bad happens in my life, or if we want to call it contrast, which I call, which is basically the law of rhythm. So if we look at our lives, you're going to have ups and downs in your life. And I'm going to tell you what, those, when you hit that rock bottom, which I did in 2020, you got to know that you have the biggest opportunity ahead of you. And I want people to know, for anyone that is facing these hardships, you have the choice. It's totally up to you. And so that's what I did. I made the decision to just study and to heal. And it's been 6 years now since my daughter's accident, and we've come a long way. We wrote a book together, which became an international bestseller on Amazon. And I became a speaker and a podcast host and all these other things that I believe would have never been possible if it wasn't for the contrast and hitting rock bottom that happened to me. So, instead of playing that victim, I decided to be the victor and say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves, like you were saying. Okay, well, at first it's you feel a little bruised, right? And you're going to go through some things. But I will tell you, I am so happy with my life. Every single thing. I am surrounded by the best people. And if a lot of these things wouldn't have happened, I don't know where I would be today.
I want to applaud you for doing the work because it's great. Many of us have gone through life with mentors, and then we get back in that same rut, that same old, how can I? So I want to ask you, while you're in your healing journey, while life is just throwing it at you, your 3 weeks of finding Roberta time just snatched away. Were there times in this process, and maybe still in this process, where the I'm not going to do this can feel like it's taking a back seat and you want to sit and you don't want to move, you don't want to go forward? Because here's the thing, change is scary, even
Yeah.
when it's good. So how would you help those that maybe have a coach, maybe have a mentor, maybe have a friend that's encouraging them to push forward in life and they're just sitting there? What advice could you give someone?
Yeah. So, faith. Having a strong faith and being surrounded by people that also have that strong faith and that are there to support you. And so, to be honest, when I first started this journey, I didn't even realize how negative I was before.
Talk about some self-awareness coming out, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So as I'm, pulling all these things up, because as they say, you have to feel to heal.
Yes.
And you're going to bring these things up in your life. And you're like, I was mad. I was angry. It brought out all of this anger because I didn't realize, where I had been and that I'd probably been attracting all of these things into my life. And a lot of us, we don't know. We really don't know. And I see this. And as I was telling you, there have been some things recently that have come up. And I see that people are struggling. So when you are, the biggest thing for me was that I had to quit dating. I had to spend the time on me. I had to learn to love myself. And so I think that's what we don't even understand, that we don't have that self-love. So you have to be able to stand on your own first and love you and figure out who you are and what you want before you bring somebody else into that. And I did that for years. I studied myself, and I will for the rest of my life. Jennifer, there's still things that come up, and it's part of my past trauma or whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I deal with it in a different way now. And I want everybody else to know too. And I, as a life coach, I work with people who have dug up some things and, they get in this and they're like, oh, yes, it's so good. I'm so happy. And then you pull something up and you're like, oh, that is heavy. It doesn't feel good. And it's like, it's okay. I said, it's okay. This is where, so when you're in that place of heaviness, step back and just be still. Just be still and just let. And that was really what 2024 was for me. I had to step back and just relax, and just let God take over. Your intuition, when you hear those thoughts, that is God speaking to you.
Yes. Agree. 100%. Agree 100%. Because sometimes our rational mind couldn't have even come up with the answers that we hear in the quiet.
Yeah. And when we do that too, we think, okay, so let me just tell you, early last year, I was dealt with something and I said, there's a battle going on. My mind was telling me one thing and my heart was telling me another. So when we're talking about that, I always say, follow your heart, because it's what would you love? Because really, love is the only thing that's real. So when you really say, well, really, what would I love? And I began a new relationship last year. And so I was scared to death. I kept looking back on all of, things that had happened to me in the past. And I was just like, oh, afraid, and I had to let go, and I had to trust my heart and believe. And it's beautiful.
And we've had this conversation because when we look in the back, what do we start doing in the front? We're sabotaging. We start sabotage. We start nitpicking. We can find the littlest things that
Yes.
aren't even there. Those things
They're-
don't even exist.
They only exist in your mind.
Yes.
It is your perception of everything, of what you're looking, what you're seeing, what you're thinking. If you don't like it, then change it.
Change the mindset.
Change it. Do it. Find something. If you're in a bad place, if I'm feeling heavy, then I'm going to go to something that feels light and feels good. Whether that is reading, a great book, whether that's listening to the music that I love, whatever it is for you, that's what you do. That's where you go to in those times. But it's funny because we talk about like the law of attraction and manifestation, and we think we have to be so happy to attract things into our lives. But you also have to let these feelings out of the past. It's okay to get a little upset, but just don't stay there. And then you put yourself into a good place and you keep going. You wake up the next day and you decide that morning, I'm going to keep going. And I mean, this has been 6 years of a huge journey for me. Huge. And I know that anybody can do this.
So may I ask, because this started, like you said, you just again started dating in the 2024 year. You had the rough relationship 17, 18, and then the accident with your daughter.
Mhm.
Then COVID comes and you're isolated.
Mhm.
Do you find that you really dove in and did some self work during that time?
Oh gosh. So that's great. In 2020, so that's a great question, because 2020 was, oh, I'm so grateful that all of that happened. And I can't believe, if I would have looked back, I can't believe I would have ever said that. But if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And so, as a hairstylist, my job was furloughed. So I lost my job. I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. I felt like I had no support. Um, and it's like, I just had to make a decision. But in 2020, I struggled. I still wasn't there yet, but I knew. I started planning my future and trying to figure out and working with some mentors that tried to help guide me. But I didn't know who I was yet. I wasn't ready for that. And it didn't hit me until like 2021. And so that's when I joined Bob Proctor's program. I was baptized again. And that's when everything changed in my life. So even though in 2020, we're still dealing, of course, with COVID and all that, and a lot of people were sick, including my parents. And so I remember driving back and forth and, having to take my parents to the hospital, to the doctor, whatever that may be. But in that time, instead of listening to music, I started listening to things that I needed. So I listened to, of course, Bob Proctor and any other like motivational videos that I could get my hands on. I listened to books on tape, all of that, not on tape. That's a few years old.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wait a minute.
tape.
For those of you that weren't born yet.
Audiobooks. That's what we
Yeah, right. So yeah, you just, you have to just block out the noise sometimes. But you have that choice every day. Every day you can decide what I want to be surrounded with, who I want to be surrounded by. And it's just making that decision and knowing your worth to stick with it. So in 2021, when I started on that journey, things were going great. And then things started pulling up. A lot of these, samskaras or paradigms or whatever you want to call them. I started digging that up and I didn't like it. So it took a while to work through all of that. And it does. But it's as long as you are really surrounding yourself, however that may be, with good people and reaching out to others like you guys coming into my life, you've been such a blessing. I can't thank you enough.
No, thank you. And it is a true treasure, Roberta, to be able to call you a friend and to walk this continued healing journey together and sharing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And, I want to tell you, as I've been working with clients too, I mean, it's so beautiful. I thought it was so amazing to see my life change, but when you can see someone else,
Yes.
right? When
Is
you
it not
can,
hard to like do the whole cheer stance and, bring out
it's
all the things for them?
exactly, it is so, so beautiful. And that's what it's about. That's what life's about. Helping others, serving others. And whatever that looks like to you, it looks different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But find your purpose. Find your purpose here on this earth. And you do that by listening to your intuition. And I say God. You can say universe, you can call it whatever you want. We know there's something, there's a higher power. Everything is energy. So there is something that is leading us there. And I know I'm very in tune right now because of the things that are happening. I can watch it. I can watch these things come into my life because recently there were a couple of things. So I'm in this transition of moving. And so the first place that I found, it fell through. And I'm like, oh, okay. For a minute I was upset. And then I was like, nope, there's something else out there. Second place, didn't work out, didn't like it. And I'm like, okay, God, you got something even better?
Right? Instead of getting down, right?
Yes.
Go up.
Instead of getting down. So the second place toward a townhouse was like, nope, it doesn't even feel good. So then I just sat back. And now, oddly enough, and people could say, well, what would that have anything to do with this? But I had ran into a friend a few months prior to this. And I kept thinking about her. And I was like, I kept having this feeling of I needed to reach out to her. Now, I could have dismissed that, but instead, I reached out to her. We met for coffee. And next thing I know, uh, she has a house for rent. And it's perfect. It was all right there all the time.
But again, that intuition, just ask her to coffee.
That was it.
How many times have we got little nuggets like that we've bypassed?
Yeah.
Take a right turn instead of a left.
Exactly.
You know
Exactly.
what?
You don't know.
You don't know. You know what? I forgot my keys. I forgot my purse. I've got to run back
Mhm.
in.
Yes.
But it saved me from whatever happened down the road.
Yes. Absolutely. That is exactly what it is. And if you are not listening, like, you have to know. And once you start listening to your intuition and just really being mindful, having that mindfulness about everything, then you'll know when it's right. And
We
yeah,
don't need to question everything.
no. And change is scary. Okay. It can be scary. It should be exciting and scary. Then you know it's right.
It is. Roberta, as we wrap up today, you have shared so many great pieces with us about how to get through that shit. Because again, since 2017 up until 2014, living through it and really working on yourself, I know that you have touched someone today. So, what I'd like for you to do as we close out our time together is to share how someone can get in contact with you if you want to promote the book, if you want to share your information. And we'll share all your social links as well. But for those of you that really connected with your voice and your story and your somehow I thrived, this is how I made it out, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So I am on Facebook, um, Roberta Campbell on Facebook, and YouTube as well. YouTube, you'll find a lot of motivational and inspirational videos. So Roberta Campbell as well. But when you talk about this, so our book is called She Looks Fine, and it is based on a traumatic brain injury. So I know will be a part of my life. So if there's anyone that is suffering from a traumatic brain injury or a concussion, I would love for you to reach out, because I know I can help you. I really do. And I don't want you to struggle like I did for such a long time. And but also so I have a podcast as well, and it's called Unleash Her.
Yes.
And the Unleash Her is that person that is like, who am I? And how do I do this? And I want to be more confident and all of the thing. So so that is my brand. Unleash Her is where I found my confidence, and I found self-love, and I found my beauty within. And it took me, look, I'm 56 and I'm just getting
I
started.
wouldn't believe that. No. No.
No. Yes. Yeah. And so that's why it's so exciting, though, because I think the times now are changing, and I've dug into health and nutrition and wellness. So I haven't talked a lot about the things that I do, but that's coming. So make sure to follow me on one of my platforms. So you're going to get a whole new taste, and you're going to see everything that I did to transform my life. And it's coming
I
this year.
I cannot wait. 2025, the year to
Yes,
thrive, right? We are killing it.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And as always, it's a pleasure to visit and be with you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate you.
You just took another step towards owning your story and thriving against all odds. This is Affirm That Shit. Somehow I thrived. If you're ready to keep kicking ass, subscribe now and let's keep breaking barriers together. Remember, life's a battle, but somehow you'll thrive.